let me post it over the FCC airwaves. We'll think of other ways to get around it. Social media is a great way to do that. It's also the scum pit of scum and villainy, and one bad click, you go down the wrong road, but we know that. And as we all know, Stephen Colbert will be retiring from The Late Show, which brought up the final point I want to talk about this fairness doctrine is look at what it's done to late night comedy. And I'm not just talking about the Monday through Friday comedy shows, Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel and whoever else is on. But how many of us remember growing up watching Saturday Night Live? That show is absolutely destroyed now too. People say that it's the fairness doctrine. You sit there and you go and you watch it and you're just like, what is going on? So, with that being said, we've got the ability to go out and get involved locally this Thursday night, learning about election integrity. And when we get back, we're going to switch gears a little bit and we're going to talk about what happened in New England. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Yeah. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show. I did get one angry texter. I appreciate all the texts coming in, by the way. But this one angry texter, "Hey, Gasser, how come you're not talking about your boy Pritzker in Illinois?" Uh, I feel like I've thumped JB in my birth state enough. It's not my home state. Mississippi's my home state, but I agree. Pritzker's in a lot of trouble. That whole family's in a lot of trouble. People don't realize it that not only is Pritzker involved in the Epstein stuff, but they just found out that his hotel chain is getting something like a $14 million tax break in just Chicago alone, and they're still gonna reelect him. So, yeah, you can say my birth state's Illinois, but never call JB my boy. Uh, I worked really hard to try to get some people elected. Bruce Rauner was one of them. Wasn't the strongest Republican, but again, we were in Illinois, and the fact that we got Bruce Rauner elected just goes to show you grassroots activism does work, which is why this event this Thursday night, and I'll X it out, I'll tweet it out, and I'll put it on my Facebook page for those who wanna go. I highly recommend it. I will not be there. I will be in Illinois at that time, but it doesn't mean that I don't support it. But we've gotta kinda switch gears here and talk about good versus evil, demons and devils versus angels and saints. This is coming from The Atlantic, and if you don't know what The Atlantic is, it's a very left-leaning paper organization, and they have been so pro-transgender, so pro-LGBTQ plus AI, LMNOP. The tide goes out on youth gender medicine. American doctors are no longer united on the wisdom of medicalizing gender dysphoria in minors. No kidding. Every farmer in Mississippi, e every common sense human being across the United States understands this. And this is by Helen Lewis from The Atlantic, who's written many pieces arguing the other side of this issue. But we go back 20 years, we didn't have all this problem, whether it be AI, whether it be social media, whether it be the internet. With great work comes great responsibility. We have so much information at our fingertips now, but this is this is so frustrating to me because they still are trying to make the case for supporting transgenderism, but they actually come out pretty good. In with the opening sentence says, "As the shaky evidence base for youth gender medicine has become better known, activists have recreate retreated to an argument from authority. Never mind the Cass report, whose findings resulted in the closure of Britain's leading youth gender clinic. Never mind the study of leading American practitioners showing that the treatments she championed did not improve minors' mental health. Never mind reports of some of the adolescents who were being put on medical pathway after only a single clinic visit. For advocates, the important thing to do is remember that gender affirming care for minors, puberty blockers, and hormones, plus surgery in rare cases, was endorsed by all the major medical associations. They brainwashed us through mainstream media, through social media, arguments of authority. Where did we hear arguments of authority from the medical doctors? They were talking this LGBTQ stuff long before they ever pushed the COVID hoax on us, right? I do believe I'm correct in saying that. Now the doctors are all coming back and saying, "Oh, oh, 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 don't look at us, don't look at us. We're not supporting this anymore." My buddy, he always sitting there yelling at me, "Post it." If you're following me on X, you can see it right now. Follow along. So now the quote unquote doctors who have been poisoning us for the last however many decades are saying this transgender thing might not be working out. I've got different evidence for this. You know, this is only gonna pick up too, is the transgender ideology. It's violent. Suicide rate is over 50%. Robert Dorgan yesterday, who killed his wife and kid at a hockey rink, a Pawtucket hockey rink in Rhode Island. That was the latest one. Robin West or the I don't even have the one in Canada here. I feel bad for that. But in saying that with Canada, it's illegal to speak out against conversion therapy. They've legislated it. We don't have that here in America. We self-censor ourselves. We don't talk about it. We're afraid to talk about it. We'll run and hide from it. But in Canada, they, have a section of their law that says, basically, you cannot talk out and speak out against conversion therapy. It's a means, a practice, a treatment, or a service designed to change a person's sexual orientation to heterosexual. So if you talk about that, illegal. Change a person's gender identity to cisgender. Nope, you can't do that. Change a person's gender expression so that it conforms to the sex assigned to the person at birth. Nope, can't do that. Repress a person's non-cisgender gender identity, or repress or reduce a person's gender expression that does not conform to the assignment to the person at birth. Man, I don't even wanna go to Canada anymore. We've gone to Canada a couple times, the Sweet Bee and I. We love Toronto. Some of the places we got to go eat in some of the farms outside the city of Toronto, you hop on the train, take a 30 or 40-minute train ride. Oh, it's a blast. But you laugh at a dude wearing a dress, and you are now breaking Canadian law. This is all like Orson Welles' 1984, Ministry of Right Think. So we've got Charlie Kirk's killer. Now, he they're not saying he was trans, but he was dating a furry who was trans. And by the way, did anybody see the pictures of him? The guy, his lover is now living in Texas, was spotted at a Taco Bell, straight as an arrow, grunge hair, no furry to be found. It's like all of us who have all this common sense are being shut down. We're being siloed into our laptops, into our anxiety devices. Doctors agree, proclaimed the American Civil Liberties Union. Gender affirming care is life saving care. GLAD declared that every major medical association, including the World Health Organization authority, supports health care for transgender people and youth. Fired up by Republican war on trans kids, they naturally deferral to institutional authority. Democrats have tended to echo this line. And we can sit there and we can pull up our anxiety devices and we can find out all the information we want at a touch of a button now. You can go through all of the science, as Fauci would say, to find out all the stuff that's happening with transgenderism. But if you're conservative or you believe in biology, you've got however many years you wanna go back, whether you have a biblical worldview or not. Biology is biology, and humanity has never faced this type of problem before. We have faced child sacrifice before and harming kids, and we can talk about that. But this LGBTQ surgery, gender affirming care, it's dangerous. You know, that wife and that kid, I'm sure weren't planning to get shot at a hockey rink in Rhode Island. I'm sure the people going to the hockey rink that night weren't planning on having a SSRI transgender man shoot up a hockey rink. Those kids are never gonna wanna go back to the hockey rink ever again. the decisions that are being made by our politicians on what feels good and what is good is absolutely destroying the moral fabric of our country, which leads me back to let's talk Flowwood. Last point. Jay Hughes. It says, and again, for those who don't remember, it says, "This is a disgrace. Replace the flag. It was worn, tattered, frayed, located at the southwest or southeast entrance of Dogwood." And Jay Hughes goes, "It's the one under it that I have a problem with." And of course, it's the American Christian flag. Well, brother Jay, that's where your morals come from. It's not popular to say. It's not something that everybody wants to talk about, but that's why we have Founding Father Fridays. That's why we talk about TTP Tuesdays. I know it was supposed to start this week, but I don't feel comfortable rushing into it when I didn't have a full weekend to get done what I needed to get done. But we are gonna talk about TTP Tuesdays, Techniques, Tactics, and Procedures Tuesdays. One of the things you can do is go to the event, Chip Matthews, this Thursday night on election integrity and start to get your AI thought patterned up. Again, you'll see too, just like in your Google searches, you train what you want to look at. You train Google, you train your AI. You have to take it to the next level. You have to know how to prompt your AI and go after this stuff. But it all gets back to the morality of America. And for the life of me, growing up in Chicago, which was pretty crazy place to grow up in the '80s, the violence was pretty real back then. I never would imagine a hockey rink got shot up. I never would imagine one of my good buddies would have been assassinated. I never would have imagined I would have seen another assassination attempt after Reagan, and but yet here we are. And it just seems that it's the political left that's on it, is the ones behind it. And I do think that there's something to be said that it's more than just to call out, how do we start fixing it? Because I'm telling you this, there's gonna be a lot of transgendered people who have their bodies completely mutilated and wasted from these politicians and these pseudo doctors calling them out, saying, "Hey, you can do this. This is gonna be okay. We're gonna have to do something about it." And sitting here talking about it is one thing, but what's the plan ahead? How do we go back and correct it? I have an idea. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I do want to talk about some local stuff. And for that, I always try to go to local news sources. Magnolia Tribune is where I started. And Patricia Rucker has a op-ed piece saying Republicans should lead on education freedom. I think Mississippi is. We're getting all this coverage, and my brother Robert out there would say, "Yeah, it's all manipulated stats and statistics," and I do agree with the segment of that, but we are doing something right too. But what you don't want to have happen is what is obviously bubbled to the top, although no one wants to talk about it besides Clay Edwards, is that people don't want their kids being subjected to violent students. Rankin didn't want Hinds County students coming into their schools, not because they didn't want them to learn, but because they appreciate the learning environment that's there. And that's ultimately why that failed. It's an unpopular take, but I'm sure of it. Other local news that's going on right now is that Governor Phil Bryant is going to court. He's taking on Mississippi Today, which is a news site that I like to use. Well, I don't call it news, I call it propaganda site. But Mississippi Today, they're trying Phil Bryant is saying that, Mississippi Today tried to slander his name, and what I would say is I hope that accountability does happen, but as a recovering politician myself who was slandered daily in the local paper, which only 800 people read, we've got a higher bar to prove the actual damages, and, Governor isn't doing too bad personally. He's part of Trump's team. Incredible influence inside the state and inside the Republican Party, and dare I say, inside some of the Democrat Party too. Do not think that there's not influence being swayed there. What really kinda irritates me is they've got this journalist celebrating her Pulitzer Prize, which we all know now some people have had to have their Pulitzer Prize removed for bad reporting. Mississippi Today champions that, and we have to combat that. We can't just sit there and allow bad reporting to go unchallenged, even if that means doing that, and we do that with WLBT too, and even WYB. Sometimes I get it wrong, and when I do, I correct it, but, these journalists do have to be reined in, especially in the digital age where they can put out a headline, it stays active for 3 hours, it gets screenshotted and shared all across social media, and the next thing you know, we're in trouble. Speaking of education reform, special session for education freedom reform not off the table, Speaker White says. This is coming from Daniel Tyson at Magnolia Tribune. While there's frustration over the failure of school choice legislation this session, Speaker of the Mississippi House, Jason White, said Monday calling a special session to reconsider the bill is not off the table. I hope they not only reconsider that, but they also reconsider the Sharia anti-Sharia law bills that were there. There's a lot of good legislation that died, and, as one of my good state representative friends told me the other day, "Andy, there's a lot of good bills that just never make it up." And I'm like, "Yeah, but some of them are a little bit better than others, don't you think?" And the truth of the matter is if it doesn't have the eye of the governor, the lieutenant governor, or the speaker of the house, it's gonna be an uphill battle. And again, getting yourself plugged in to the system politically, whether it be going to a grip and grin on a Wednesday or a Rankin County Saturday morning breakfast, or to a special event like Chip Matthews putting on. It's gonna be a big deal. And I'm still not sure that the version of education freedom that is being pushed by the government is totally being transparent with where the money is actually going? Is this gonna just take a circuitous route to where eventually it goes to a bunch of private charter schools, and that kids aren't gonna be necessarily taught and educated? They're just gonna be going to a charter school? There are a few charter schools that have failed. Not every private school is the same. Not every Christian school is the same, ladies and gentlemen. Trust me, I know. Took a hot minute to figure some of that out. And we paid the price for it, but it was a price that we were willing to pay. And I'm just being upright and transparent and forthright with y'all when I say I wasn't I want the money to follow the students. I totally get that. But if you're gonna take your kid from a public school and put it into a private school, I want to know how the kid is gonna get to school. It's up to the parents to make sure their kids do get to school. There's still truancy laws. Kids still have to attend school. I do think that schools are gonna change even more, especially as AI comes online. I mean, you can go right now into Grok or your ChatGPT, your AI of choice, and learn about molecular biology, and it'll start you off at the most basic of level, and within 30 minutes, you'll be reading PhD stuff. Now, I'm not saying you're gonna understand it completely, but you are gonna be so much further along than taking an entire college course on it, where you're gonna have to go through years and years just to get to that point. Education in and of itself is changing. And then I see the Lindsey Beckham side of it too, with special needs programs, with kids with special needs. Some school districts have better programs than others. Some would say then move to that school district. Others would say that's not possible. My biggest thing about that is okay, I'm gonna send my daughter to Northwest Rankin County. I live in Terry, Mississippi, and there are only 3 spots left, but they have to keep those open for incoming students transferring into the school. School board's gotta be responsible. They're responsible and deny my daughter. Does that mean now that I go lobby the school board to add an extra teacher, add an extra administrator so that they have an extra class to fit my daughter? After all, it's tax dollars. The arg the argument for this is double-sided, slippery on both sides, and ultimately, in the end, I do think that there are a lot of good people on both sides of the aisle on this, but until they figure out a way to actually have the money follow the child and protect the public school districts that are performing better than the ones that aren't. And just for the record, I do have some friends who teach in Jackson, and, they tell me all the time how truly miserable it is. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be back with our last segment. Gotta tell you what's coming up the rest of the week. Don't go too far. We'll be right back. And we are back at the Andrew Gosser Show. I'm really proud that I don't really talk about some of these national stories that are there to distract us. But our man Chris Hinkle on X at the Chris Hinkle, there, there's this TMZ guy, Harvey Levin, just talking about how he's involved with this Arizona kidnapping craziness that's going on. And he puts out a 2 minute and 35-second statement about to the person who's demanding the ransom money and all this craziness. And while I still have a lot of problems with the FBI, Chris does bring up a valid point. You can sit there and send all your information to the TMZ to try to milk it out and build up a following that way, or you could just send in your stuff to the FBI. I mean, you've already put out enough identifying markers out there to where the FBI is gonna have a pretty good circular error probability of who you are. I mean, if they have satellites back in the '70s that can read the date off a penny, um, they can definitely get your eye print. Now, it's not even a thumbprint, it's an eye print. You can tell who you are by the iris of your eye. The technology out there is absolutely insane, and I'll continue to do that. And then a big story that's going on today is that the Reverend Jesse Jackson has passed away. Even though I was in Chicago, I never did go to Push Coalition, never really met the Reverend, but my wife did. Sweet Pea's got an incredible story about the Reverend Jesse Jackson. She was going on her way to, believe it or not, a women's conference, and in the airport, in the Detroit airport, of all places, was the Reverend Jesse Jackson. And he had his security around him and everything. And for those of you who know who the Sweet Pea is, she's just got this thing about her. She can just melt away stuff. And she just walked right up to the Reverend and said, "Reverend, will you pray for me?" And the way she tells the story is like it almost confused Jesse. And she said that there was a good 20 or 30 seconds of silence of prayer. She got prayed over. She walked away, gave him a hug, and walked away. And I'm not saying I agree with everything that Jesse Jackson did, but I don't wish death on anybody. Which leads me into the next story. Or not the next story, but something else that happened 5 years ago today. Today was the day that Rush Limbaugh passed away. And I'm getting this from Bo Snerdley. Hard to believe it's been 5 years today. And Bo's talking about it. And it's hard because, life moves on. The world keeps spinning, the world keeps turning. Nothing in life is guaranteed to us. We gotta maximize each day for the influence of the kingdom, as Pastor Franco would say. Nothing's guaranteed to us. And, it's hard because Rush left us way too soon. Pastor Franco left way too soon. It's, definitely something that's on my mind, and, I've got my doctor's appointment today, and I do wanna talk about it. I'm not, like, gonna drop dead tomorrow or anything like that, but, Parkinson's is real and, makes certain things a lot more difficult to do, so we're continuing to do that. In saying that, was suggested that I go, visit my family up in Illinois. So I am taking an obscene vacation 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Monday, I'll be gone. I'll actually be traveling Thursday, coming back Monday. But I'm gonna go visit my mother. I don't think I've been back to Illinois since 2022, 2023. Don't really like going back there too much. The politics is too crazy. But I am looking forward to seeing my mother and my sisters. I am looking forward to seeing my sons, all 3 of them, and my granddaughter. And, maybe that's a good way to close out the show. We always say, "Oh, I'll call you later. I'll come up and visit you some other time. Oh, let's go work on the train table. We'll go do it next time." Well, that tread is slowly wearing off the tires, ladies and gentlemen. Not just with me, but with you. I mean, I'm 53 years old, and some of the things I can do are not like they were just 6 months ago or a year ago. And it's funny as we get older, because we're always trying to pass it on down to our kids. Like, you don't know, just wait till you get older. Just wait till you get older. But it does catch up with you. And then the things that you thought you were going to be able to do with your sons or your daughters, those opportunities go by. And I think in this era that we're living in this time that we're living in, I think we're not paying enough attention to our family and our kids, our grandkids, and we're more sucked into the AI and the sports and all that kind of craziness. So I'm going to take some time to focus on my family. In the meantime, the show is not going to suffer. We've got a reboot of the Clay and Sean show this Thursday. It's going to be lit, and I'm very grateful and thankful to Clay and Sean for stepping in, so I didn't have to do a rerun. Friday, we will have a rerun from a Friday show, so we'll still have a Founding Fathers Friday, and I do plan to have a Founding Father for tomorrow. And then on Monday, it'll be Chip Matthews hosting the show. So you are in good hands, ladies and gentlemen. So until tomorrow, 22 hours, take care, everybody. Be blessed.